Are we live? Hey.
Alrighty, welcome back, Tackles and Tinnies listeners. We're up to episode 8. It's actually unreal. So, Gazzy, how you been, brother?
I've been good. Been good. Been busy at work. Busy's good.
Heard you've had a couple of my students come on in, listening to Tackles and Tinnies online. So it's good to hear that the audience is coming to back in motion at Burley Heads,
It's
Gaz.
so good. Cover the Marymount boys. Yeah, so good. It's good to see that we've got a bit of a following. A couple of the boys. Shout out to the boys.
Shout out to the boys. And what's news in your life, Gaz, besides work?
Bit on the weekend. Been bit rainy on Saturday, and then Sunday I think we went out to the beach. So enjoyed a bit of the sunshine,
Yeah,
which is nice.
unreal. Yep, had a pretty decent week. I hit a couple of PBs in the gym, which I'm pretty stoked with. It's been 4 years since I was hitting those types of weights. I've been on a high ever since then. And yeah, just had a couple of tinnies on the weekend watching the footy, so can't be complaining about that one. Hey, mate.
I saw that on Facebook. It's great.
Yeah,
You
bro.
pulling 100 and
So I take my
170
physio.
kilos.
Must be Gary looking after me. Alrighty, Gazzy. I'm looking at Physio Corner for this week. What do we got, mate?
Yeah, let's get straight into it. So a bit of an update following round 4. We've got Seagulls, Tommy Turbo with an MCL sprain, so he's still not looking too good and expected to be out for a couple of weeks, at least 4. Nick Meaney with his jaw, so he's out last round, but he's progressing well with his rehab. Then onto the hamstrings, so a couple of hamstrings with Ryan Toto, I know, Rocco Berry, JL or KL Iro, and then
Pale Arrow. Yep.
Skelton. So they're out with hamstring injuries. And then with the Panthers, Nathan Cleary, he's expected to return next round or this round, round 5.
Yep.
He's passed his
Name today.
HIA protocols, which has been great. This is probably a talking point later, but I think the Panthers really missed him last week or round 4. Kolomatangi from the Rabbitohs, he's yet to be cleared. I think they might be taking scans and things like that, so one to kind of look out for. Hughes, Jerome, so he underwent hand surgery and he's out for at least 2 weeks. So big loss for the Storm, but he's going to be pretty good and be back.
Yeah, he got named on the extended bench today on TLT, so that's one to keep an eye on. So I guess that's a good sign, maybe a week or 2 away.
Amazing. Yeah, that's a great update. Campbell Graham, he's got ongoing leg issues, so no return date set. Karaz and Kikau, so from the Bulldogs, they're going to be back soon, a couple of weeks. They're probably expecting about 2 weeks for them both, so big things for the Bulldogs. Kinney, so at least personally, and I don't know how you feel, right, but Kinney with his neck injury. He got scans, it looked like a disc bulge, and so he's had surgery. So that's going to be a bit of a rehab journey for him. 3 to 5 months at least, making sure that the symptoms and stuff don't really return before he plays back on. Alex Johnson, South Sydney Rabbitohs, his ribs, they're going to take it easy with him, so I think it's a week-to-week basis for him. Hopewadi, so he's third ACL injury. So
yeah, Albert. Let's not say Lehigh. Albert Hopewadi
not yeah. Got to clarify
from the
that
Raiders.
one. And then Dewey, he's got a groin strain. He's been named, but it could be a late scratch. Victor Radley, he's out for a week or 2 with his cheekbones. Jack Williams, he's had knee surgery, so he's 4 to 6 weeks before he returns. Interestingly, Justin Olam, he's medically retired.
Yeah, pretty sad, eh?
Yeah. Well, Justin Olam, he's such a great at the game. Where did he start? Was it the Storm? Melbourne Storm?
Yep, long time ago now.
Yeah.
Only started playing rugby league in like his mid-teens, so pretty crazy his journey.
Yeah.
Didn't have much exposure when he was younger, and all of a sudden just a bit of a bullet over in Papua New Guinea, and then fast forward 7-8 years later, and yeah, he's an international superstar.
Yeah. Yeah. He was a wrecking ball. Like, he played so well for the Melbourne Storm and then ended up at the Tigers. So it's, yeah, to hear that he's medically retired, it's a little bit sad, but I think, it's best thing for him. And
Yeah,
his,
definitely.
yeah, all the best, hopefully, for Justin. That is most of it for Physio Corner this week. But do you think I'm missing anything, Ryan, or is there anything to add?
Well, I think It's just interesting to note the Albert Hopewadi ACL injury. So it's his third of his career. We have seen in the past a lot of players redoing the ACLs. Adam Dewey is one of them. James Tedesco early on in his career had a couple of ACLs. What's sort of like the return to play with these players coming back from ACL injuries, especially if they've already re-ruptured the same leg or the alternate leg or both legs?
Yeah, great question. So, return to play, especially if they've previously done an ACL injury and then they've re-ruptured it the following season or like 2 seasons down the track, you're almost thinking like, is the graft, is the integrity of the ligaments or your ACL where your ACL prevents that anterior sliding of the tibia going past the femur. So it's like that graft is likely, the reasons why injuries happen is likely either like the muscles around the joint aren't strong enough, or that, and can be a mixture of like the graft's not strong enough to, or it could be a combination of both. So you're really starting to think like, if this has happened 3 times in a row, do I medically retire, or I guess, do I play on? Do I rehab it? Because it's no fault of the player themselves. It's like usually if you do the rehab, you can get back to 100%. Like you can be as good as you can be, and and uh, and yeah. So yeah, it's an interesting one.
Yeah, so that is interesting. We never want players medically retiring, and the old what if question, because James Tedesco, back when he was at the West Tigers, before he was a absolute superstar with the Sydney Roosters, he did back-to-back ACLs, and that's sort of why the Roosters picked him up and got him for a steal, because the injury cloud of 2 ACLs in back-to-back seasons at such a young age, and investing so much money, time, and resources into those sort of players is kind of the what if type question. So yeah, it's interesting to note that you've said time will tell, I guess.
Yeah, I do want to preface with also like you can rehab your ACL back to like 100%, and it shouldn't really stop you from continuing to play sports. Like it's still very strong. I think just at this elite level, it's like a lot of things are, people are running into each other harder. The boys are a
Oh,
lot
sure.
bigger. There's a lot more load and things like that. But yeah, it's that you're able to rehab it to 100%. It should be good. Like you look at Beau Fermor, you look at Tino so far, like Beau Fermor 2 years ago, I think was his ACL. And then last year he played amazing. This year he's still doing really great. So it's like, it's definitely doable. And it depends. It's a case by case as well.
Is it very much like surgeon dependent as well, how they do the ACL, or is it pretty much similar sort of surgery, taking stuff from your hamstring or
Yeah.
whatever?
Yep. That would play. It's very similar. Yeah. Like the surgery is very similar. So I guess it's also down to the surgeon, I guess, in terms of their kind of expertise and stuff as well. But generally it's a hamstring graft, and then they place that into your knee.
Yeah. And let's just say hypothetically, the Albert Hopewadi situation, he's already done his ACL twice on one leg, one on the other. Is the rehab process going to be longer? Is it still going to be a similar time frame? And again, there's going to be listeners out there who have already done their ACL and they're potentially in a similar situation. Might be good insight to
Yeah.
hear.
Yeah, definitely. That it's a very similar. Most people have similar journeys if they undergo surgery. It's kind of that week to week or rehabilitation. So it's like that typical 9 to 12 months before you're kind of returning to play or returning to a sports. It's quite typical. There are very standard like rehabilitation guidelines. So it's like you undergo, oftentimes a surgeon wants, like post surgery, wants to see like 90-degree knee bend or knee flexion after a certain time. And that's typically like, that 1 to 2 months. So then from there, it's like trying to get your walking patterns right. So normalizing gait. So oftentimes when you first get surgery, it's like you're limping a little bit, which is completely normal. But then trying to get a bit more of that pattern going. So like knee flexion, then extension, then that walking. From walking, then progressing your strength, so to being able to tolerate a bit more load. And it's just taking time so that letting the ACL graft heal, and then letting your body able to take on a bit more load and weight.
Mate, great insight. And sure the listeners would appreciate your expertise and definitely using the comparison of Albert Hopper Whitey. I guarantee there'll be some listeners out there taking some insight from that. So thanks again, Gary.
Good.
Great as always.
Anything for the tackles and tinnies listeners out there?
That's it. So moving on from Physio Corner, gone to news around the ground. So there's some couple of insights coming from the 1st of April. So I'll just read through it. So the Bulldogs' historic start. So the Canterbury Bulldogs have achieved their first 4-0 start since 1993, which follows a 26-6 victory over the Cronulla Sharks in the last round. Cronulla Bronson Cherry delivered a standout performance against his former team, quarternews.com. So, mate, the doggies. What can we say about the Dogs at the moment, Gaz?
Yeah, 4-0 start. They're on fire. Really liking them this season. I mean, first game against the Titans, so they won, they did well. But yeah, like can't fault them. They're doing really good.
Let's not quit myself up from my earlier podcast, Gaz, when I said they're not going to make the top 8. Let's delete that podcast, I think. But yeah, I'm happy to eat my own words because they've certainly proved a point that they're definitely a top 4 team, in my opinion. And
Yeah,
maybe it might be a new era for the NRL. Doggies top 4 for the foreseeable future.
yeah, yeah. Hopefully, they'll be there at the top 8.
Yeah, definitely. And especially with Birdo and Kickout coming back. So they're only going to get better. So we've got the Seagulls triumphant among their injuries, especially with Tommy Turbo going down without MCL, as you mentioned before, Gazzy. They've got a fantastic replacement in Lehigh Hopewadi. But yeah, it's getting a bit nerve-wracking with Tommy. Another injury, another lower extremity injury. And again, he had literally both knees taped up and a crook hammy by the end of his stint. What can we say about that? The Seagulls moving forward, Gaz?
Yeah, a lot of people. I looked in the comment section. It's never a great idea to look on the comment section on social media, but a lot of people were like he's made of like rubber, or like he's getting injured all the time. Like what's going on? That type of thing. Yeah, it's a tough one for Tommy. Like I really feel for him because like injuries suck. Like having repeated hamstring strains, especially I'm imagining being at such a high level, this is your bread and butter. So it would suck for him. And yeah, I think he'll be looking at this setback and he's like, I'm sure he's like thinking whether he should continue, or at least if I'm in his shoes, I'd be like, oh, I'm getting injured quite a lot. Like I want to put in all this effort, all this time spent on rehab, and then I just keep injuring myself. But I think he's going to get back on his back in the saddle.
Yeah,
He'll get
definitely.
through it. He'll, with the MCL strain and the hamstring. But yeah, he'll get back on it. He'll be back.
Yeah. Yeah, he's too much of a gun. He's still young enough where he's robust. He's only the ripe age of 30. Just rings a bell for us, Gazzy.
Yeah, still in our peak. In the
Yeah,
peak.
that's it.
Yeah,
Still in our
still
peak.
upwards.
So is Tommy, baby. Also interesting news, the NRL expansion discussions with the Brisbane Tigers have renewed their bid for the inclusion in the NRL, following suggestions that the 5th Queensland-based team could join the league. The proposal included redevelopment to the club's home ground and aims to target the southwest corridor between Ipswich and Logan. What do you think of that one, Gaz? Brisbane Tigers. I think Gary's fixing that one up. But yeah, my opinion, another Queensland team couldn't go wrong with that. Ipswich and Logan are only developing areas in the southern corridor of southeast Queensland. So I think having another team in that sort of area will not only be beneficial, and there's so much raw talent out there. I think it's going to be a good thing. Gaz, could you hear any of that one?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm just tuning back in. So the Brisbane Tigers have renewed their bid for the inclusion in the NRL. So that'll be
Yes.
really interesting. That'd be great. Like a 5th Queensland team, and 2 in Brisbane too. I think more
Will be
competition.
3 almost, technically,
Yeah, and in
with the fin.
Redcliffe. Yeah, I think that's great because more competition means that they need to, I guess, recruit more talent. There'll be more. Yeah, more competition would be great. Like players getting in through the system, more feeder clubs or more clubs are going, if that's, people's pathways and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's awesome. Great for the game.
Yeah, and so many gun Queensland players out there who don't get the opportunity because the resources aren't there. But obviously now, potentially with Ipswich and Logan getting some extra funding, who knows, could uncover the next superstar in our game. So yeah, I definitely think it's a great idea if they can get another team there. And I think it'll only be a matter of time, not when. Moving on. So the NRL Grand Final location debate. So again, New South Wales, those prickly bastards. The New South Wales government has reaffirmed its commitment to hosting the NRL Grand Final, despite discussions of Queensland's new 63,000-seat stadium in Brisbane's potentially hosting the event in the future. Negotiations are ongoing to secure a long-term agreement for Sydney to remain in the host city, according to the Daily Telegraph. Do we think the NRL Grand Final should stay in Sydney? Yes or no, Gaz?
Oh, that's a tough one. I reckon change it around. I can see why they do it in Sydney because Sydney being New South Wales being almost like where the oldest club started. I guess more demand in that area, but I reckon share it around. Or at least I reckon it'd be cool I don't know how, but like making up a bit of a system on like who gets to buy the rights, for example, or who gets to host. And it might be like, the winner of the previous year gets to decide. I don't know how that will go, but some kind of system, where players or where teams can try and yeah, somehow get it, like an incentive kind of
Get the
thing.
rights for it,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, like in the NBA, for example, if you're the first overall seed in both conferences, you're guaranteed 4 out of the 7 games in your home city. So obviously that's a huge
Huge.
advantage.
Yeah.
Let's just use the example of the Panthers versus the Broncos. The Panthers are going to have a bit of a home ground advantage because it's in Sydney.
Mm.
If Queensland does go ahead with this 63,000 seat stadium, which I'm pretty sure they've already sort of approved it, whether or not how it's going to be configured is another story, but increasing that capacity over Suncorp, that's obviously a huge plus. Realistically, it's 20,000 plus less than some of the Sydney stadiums. So that's obviously a huge variable and a lot of lost revenue there. But I think it's been proven from Magic Round that people rally in Queensland, and we're more than happy to spend big bickies to go to these types of events.
Mm.
Brisbane does it great. Like it's been proven the past 2 years with Magic Round. Gazzy, we're going to Magic Round this year. It's only going to be one for the ages there, but I'd love to see Brisbane have a go. Even just try it for 2 to 3 years, and if it's not the best thing for the game, we can go back to Sydney. It's not the worst case scenario, but yeah, I think we have so many teams here in Queensland, and Brisbane being such a powerhouse, and particularly why they're only getting better really in the past couple of years, moving forward, especially with some of their guns coming through. It could be, yeah, it could be a good decision by the NRL, but again, as the saying goes, time will tell. This is just recent, guys, and if you guys haven't heard this one, this is going to be quite a big one. So the NRL enforces a crackdown on high tackles. So the NRL has issued a stern warning to clubs regarding high tackles after several incidents in recent rounds. Players like Jerome Luai, Jordan Ricky, Tommy Gilbert, Reid Marnie were charged for forceful head contact, but were not sent to the sin bin during their matches. NRL head of football, Graham Adamleasley, acknowledged the oversight and emphasised that future offences will result in stricter on-field penalties to ensure player safety, according to news.com. This was big because originally when it was stated, if you hit their head at all, it was a sin bin. So everyone was blowing up on social media. The boys in the SuperCoach chat were obviously discussing it as well. Like just a slight tap to the head is going to be not only killer for the actual teams itself, but people playing fantasy sports like me and you guys. It's going to be so volatile, but it's forceful contact to the head. So any sort of forceful contact,
Yeah.
automatic sin bin. Don't hate it. Obviously, player safety is a huge thing, and I've said it for many times, but for my viewers, it might be the first time ever hearing this. Drew John said it probably 6-7 years ago now, but on the NRL footy show on the Sunday version of it, not the Thursday, he stated that he wants a 12 versus 12 game. Think about when rugby league was created close to 100 years ago. Players weren't as big, they weren't as fast, they weren't as agile, they weren't as skillful, and the fields haven't got bigger, but the players have, and they've gotten better in every aspect and dimension of the game. So the fields essentially shrunk, and the players have gotten bigger in that regard. So seeing less players on the field will provide more offensive spark and more tries or try opportunities, which can only be good for viewership in terms of highlights and short form videos for us creators, or talking points in terms of sin bins. I think there's a lot of pros, and obviously player safety is the biggest one. What do you reckon?
Yeah, wow, that's a really interesting idea. I like that. It's like making one less player, and because the players are so much, bigger, stronger, more agile, more athletic, you've got more room as well. Then, for your backs or for the forwards to take it up, and for the backs to kind of do their thing. Yeah, that would be really interesting. Well, we've seen it's worked for like things like sevens and the other formats like nines. That's quite entertaining.
Yep,
Um,
for
so
sure.
much room in sevens with the rugby union, and the boys are so fit too. Like they're running for days, really. So yeah, 12v12, that'd be a great idea. We're gonna send this podcast to the
I think it's almost
NRL.
inevitable when you think about it. Like, again, the players are getting fitter, stronger, faster. Their tackling techniques getting more efficient.
Mm,
The players are getting more convoluted and more like just everything's better than it was 100 years ago, and the fields won't change because they're already built.
yeah,
That's understandable. They're not going to knock out seeding because obviously that's going to get rid of prime real estate in terms of funding for the games.
yeah,
So just logically, it makes sense for 12 versus
yeah,
12. But obviously, the player association will never go for
yeah.
that because that's
Because
guys losing jobs.
exactly, you're cutting into a position, and then that position will have a lot of flow-on impacts. Because then it's like a lot of players cut from each team, and then cut from each club. Even from like grassroots. It's like, oh, then it's a very political thing. I can see it going up and down the chain, being like, oh, well, okay, if the NRL aren't playing 13, like I'm under 15s, like, are we going to play 12? And for the NRL, you know what I mean? Like it's going to have a
Yeah, for
lasting
sure.
flow on effect.
Yeah, it's just food for thought. And guys, in the comments, please give us your thoughts on the whole situation. Do you like a 12 versus 12 format? Do you like the new strict or more strict rule for the head-eye collisions? Please let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear it, and we might share some of your thoughts next week on the potty. So next up, we got the Bulldogs questioning the consistency in player bans. So the Canterbury Bulldogs have expressed their confusion over the suspension of forward Satilia Tupanua for a high tackle deemed illegal, especially when similar incidents involving other players did not result in sin bins. Again, this is a flow-on effect from the previous conversation we just had, Gaz.
Hmm.
Coach Cameron Serraldo highlighted the team's commitment to player safety, but questioned the consistency and officiating decisions, according to news.com. Again, a flow-on effect from our previous conversation. And I think it's just going to be now black and white. There's going to be no grey area. If you hit someone's head, you're done. You're gone. You're off the field. I was talking to my mate Adam about this in regards to player suspensions. If you hit the head, are you suspended for a week? I don't know. It's going to be like the play the ball rule. Like Randall and I were having a little laugh about this the other day about the play the ball. They were really cracking down on everyone in the ruck. You must play the ball with your foot. And it's now, round 5, and they've literally just out the window. They've been not even checking that anymore. Is it going to be the same with the head high tackles? Is it going to be the same with the sin binning and suspensions? I don't know. What do you reckon?
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of in the spotlight in the media at the moment with the head highs. I think once they've set that precedent, they're likely going to try and like keep it going. So like yeah, down the track. Well, at least you'd hope that they'd stay consistent on it, because then it's that inconsistency in the game that kind of just ruins it for some people.
Yeah. Especially as a fan, that's all we want, eh? Just consistency creates greatness, and this game is so good, but those, little discrepancies and inconsistencies that we can see through the bunker or through the officiating or through player volatility, they're just very frustrating as a viewer and especially as a member. Good news for Morgo. Latrell's back.
Yes, how good.
Jai Gray staying. So Latrell Mitchell's position switch for the return game. So South Sydney superstar Latrell Mitchell is set to make his return from a hamstring injury, not in his usual fullback position, but at left centre. The strategic move is to bolster the Rabbitohs' attack as they face this former club, the Sydney Roosters, and Jackie Wyden will now shift to the right centre to accommodate the change, according to news.com. Thoughts on Trell Mitt returning for the Rabbitohs and Jai Gray holding his fullback position?
Yeah, love it because he's been killing it at fullback, and I think at least for Latrell, fullback, there's a lot more running. So like for Latrell, it's like easing back into, and he's played center before, so it's like easing back into the game. Um, and then just seeing how he goes from there. But yeah, I can see old man Bennett. and his why and in his wisdom, what like where he's coming from. But yeah, I like that. Let's see how Mitchell goes in at centre and
I love it.
yeah.
I think it's awesome. Jai Gray, and we'll go through the Dally M later on. I made a mistake in terms of how it's calculated, but I'll go over that later in the potty. But Jai Gray's leading the Dally M. It'd be actually absurd to get rid of the leading Dally M getter for the year.
Mm.
He does all the junk that Trell doesn't need to do. Like Trell and Hamiso, they're both Ferraris. We don't want to see them doing all those redundant hit ups, all the unnecessary running. We want them getting good ball or ball in the red zone, known as the 20-meter zone. Let him float. Let him go wherever he wants in the red zone or the 30-meter line. Be a roaming fullback, 5'8", halfback. Give him the ball in that zone, but in defense and everywhere else on the field, let him defend at center, which he's very good at. He's a huge body. The boys won't be wanting to run at Jackie White and all him on either side, so that's definitely going to help their defense. And Jai Gray, he's just been absolutely clinical at the back, so he definitely deserves to hold a spot, especially while Campbell Graham is injured. It'll be interesting when he returns. Does Trell Mitt stay in the centres and Campbell Graham potentially go into the wing? Don't know. Time will tell. Debate over the Tigers. So the West Tigers $5 million offer to young star Lockie Galvin. So rugby league commentator Phil Gould raised concerns about the West Tigers' reported intention to offer 19-year-old Lockie Galvin a $5 million contract over 5 years. Gould believes that such a significant financial commitment could place undue pressure on the young player and may not be the best development interest for him, according to news.com. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, wow, that's huge money. Hey, $5 million over 5 years, $1 million a year.
For a 19-year-old?
For a 19-year-old too, that's a huge call. I mean, if I was Lockie Galvin, I'd be like, hell yeah. Sure.
Yeah, 100%. Sign me up.
Exactly, but it's also a big decision too, I guess, for Lockie or anyone in this situation, because it's like you're then really trying to commit. Like 5 years is a while, right? Committing to the West Tigers, and it's like, do you see a vision at the West Tigers? But yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, I'm not I think, obviously, for Lockie Galvin, it's a no-brainer, but $5 million in today's age, if you rewind like 3 years ago, it's about 700K. So 700K for, well, he's not proven yet, but obviously had a very good season last year. Pardon me. Had a very good season last year, but we got to think about positional scarcity, and there's not many very good 5'8" slash halfbacks coming up. And we're getting guys from England. Like, I don't hate bagging on players. I'm not bagging him per se, but Lewis Dodd, Rabbitoh spent huge money on him to come over from England, spent 700 plus thousand, and he's not even playing. So at least you got a guy that you know with the potential he's going to develop, at least into a very solid player in a position that is scarce for $1 million a year. Again, with cap inflation, that's probably going to look like 800,000 in a couple of years' time. Yeah, I think it's a pretty good deal for both parties, to be honest, and I think it's fair for the market. And obviously, Lockie Galvin's got a bit of leverage there due to positional scarcity. So, the last one, we got Daly Cherry Evans announces departure from the Manly Seagulls. We talked about this last week, and it's still huge news in the media cycle. But what I want to do for this week, Gaz, I want to do a special edition of Cap or Fact.
Nice.
Okay, I got ChatGPT to give me a non-biased cap or fact prediction for where Daly Cherry Evans will go in 2026.
Nice.
And ChatGPT reckons that the Gold Coast Titans will be the most likely. Why it makes sense. DC has a strong Queensland ties. He's born in Mackay. The Titans are in a rebuild phase and could use a veteran half to guide young guns like AJ Brimson, Jalen DeGroot, Keanu Keeney. You name them, they got JC, whatever. He'd be closer to his family and sunshine, perfect for a swan song for a year or two. The wildcard factor could be to take part-time playmaker mentor hybrid role or transition to a coaching role past 2026. There's a lot going for him in terms of one of the better Queensland teams. Got a lot of young guys around. I guess you could say they need a halfback, especially if they just want to go all in sort of next year, because more than likely Kieran Foran's not going to be there, so they're going to lack a little bit of depth in their halves. Yeah, it'd be interesting. What do you think about the Titans being the potential number one, Gaz.
I don't hate that. I really like that actually. If it was cap or fact, I'd say that's facts, and I hope that happens. Yeah, that's great. Because DCE, I mean, I think a lot of people remember, at least long-time Titans supporters, remember that DCE almost came to
Backflip.
the Titans. So I think some people will be like, "Oh, well, he backflipped on us years ago. Nah, we don't want him." But in terms of just the player, he's such a great player, great halfback, great kicking game, and yeah, a wealth of experience for the younger boys as well, like what you mentioned, right? Like AJ and Jalen and Kinney, JC. It'll only be great for the Titans. Yeah, fingers crossed. I hope so.
Yeah, like I love the idea. I've been screaming for it for like a year and a half now for Keeney, Brimo, and JC to be the fullback and the halves combination. But if you can get arguably the second best halfback in the game with all that leadership experience to, especially for JC, the mentorship that it could do for him to get to the next level to be a halfback moving forward, I think it would be
Yeah.
fantastic for him. I think it'd be a great fit. Whether or not they can afford him, it's another story, but yeah, we'll see. So ChatGPT reckons the Brisbane Broncos is the second fit and it's a strategic fit. The reason being, it makes sense. If Adam Reynolds retires at the end of 25, then there's a potential position for him. But obviously, they got Ben Hunt there, they got Ezra Mann, they got all these other guns in there. So time will tell. But again, if they want another seasoned veteran at halfback that is not Ben Hunt, that makes sense for them there. But again, they got a lot of younger fellas coming through, and whether or not they can fit them in the cap, there's a lot of variables for the Broncos. So, what do you reckon about the Broncos, Gaz?
Yeah, a little bit harder with the Broncos because they're not, yeah, with the cap, and it's probably less likely to be able to move things around um at the Broncos. So yeah, I guess we'll see with that one.
Does he take less money to go to a better team if it's a Queensland team?
Yes. If I was to put myself in his shoes, that's something I would do. Like take a little bit less money to go to a better team. And it depends on DCE. Like he's a champion player, so like he wants to probably contribute and do as best as he can. So then the question is then like, yeah, exactly, like go Gold Coast Titans or Brisbane Broncos, and like where would you like see like a better chance, or of winning a premiership or making the biggest difference?
Yep. Now, the third choice was for the Dolphins. And again, it comes down to positional scarcity. They can throw huge money at DCE. They've got a little bit treasure trove there ready to go. They got young Isaiah Katoa, desperately needing a mentor. Imagine those two at halfback 5'8". They would actually be absolutely dynamic.
Mm.
Yeah, what do you reckon about the Dolphins, Gaz?
Yeah, and don't hate it. It'll be pretty good. Same thing with with Katoa. That mentorship would be amazing for the younger boys, and just learning from someone that's had years and years of experience. Yeah, I think I prefer, if Cherry Evans is listening. I know I've talked shit about your hammies and your age, but Gold Coast Titans,
Your back
please.
spasms. Yeah, I think going off the cap or fact predictions for DCE, yeah, I definitely think the Gold Coast Titans make the most sense for a Queensland-based team. I don't really see him going to go up to North Queensland, so I think they're out in that regard. I think next week Gazzy might be a good option as well. We do like a New South Wales or a broader spectrum in case he wants to go somewhere else. So maybe we'll chuck some other options in there next week for part 2 of the DCE cap or fact predictions.
Great idea.
But yeah, up the Titans.
Yeah, let's go Titans.
So now we're going to the cap or fact for round 4, and that's the round 4 review. So ChatGPT predicted that the Penrith Panthers would beat the South Sydney Rabbitohs 20-14, and then that was a big defiant cap. So it was the Rabbitohs 28, the Panthers 18, and the Rabbitohs, they looked bloody good. And Ivan Cleary post-game stated that we haven't seen the real Panthers yet, according to news.com. And Isaiah Yeo, the captain for the Panthers, quoted, "We need to improve to earn favourable calls in future games," according to news.com. What's your thoughts about the Panthers versus the Rabbitohs game, Gazzy?
So I didn't get to watch this one, but it was. I mean, just looking at the result alone, it was kind of close within that 10 or under 12. Yeah, no, I guess nothing more to add to that.
Yeah, they came out hot, the Rabbitohs. I watched this game very closely. Yeah, the Rabbitohs just were dominating. They looked like they wanted the ball more. Their first up contact was really aggressive and really strong. And the Panthers looked a bit shell shocked. Obviously, we've got to give some slack to the Panthers because they were losing Dylan Edwards and Nathan Cleary. That's two of their biggest guns in their team in very pivotal positions. So, yeah, some slack has to be given there. But certainly a slow start for the Panthers, and it's very concerning. Are they a top tier contender still, Gaz? Yes or no?
Yes, yep. Don't think we can count them out yet, being, four-time premiership winners. And, Nathan Cleary, they were definitely missing him last round. Once he's back fit and healthy, I think getting back into it, the team will start gelling. They'll find their feet again and probably, a surge for the finals.
Yeah, definitely. I think the Origin period is going to be very interesting because they're probably going to lose about 4 to 5 players during the Origin time. And I think the biggest thing at the moment is most evident for me as a viewer and as a spectator. The Panthers' depth has been absolutely decimated in the past couple of years, and you can only plan so far into the future. You might have a plan A, B, C, but if every single team has taken your halves or taken your gun center like Critter, and then all of a sudden you get a couple of injuries, you can only do so much. And I think they're sort of coming back to the pack now, which is great as an NRL viewer and an NRL analyst slash commentator. It's only going to create better content for us because there's going to be more transparency throughout the league. And that's what we want. We want to see any sort of week, any sort of game you go watch, any team can win. And that's what we want to see as a spectator. So next game. Gazzy, this was a good one. The Roosters versus the Titans. The prediction was the Roosters 28 and the Titans 16. And that was a definite cap. The Titans were dominant, Gazzy. What were your thoughts on this game?
Loved it. That was a great game. The Titans smashed it, and heading into it, not going to lie, it was a little bit like, yes, it could have gone either way. So, yeah, to see that the Titans, got through. The forwards played them really well. The backs played very good too. So, like, just as a team, they had a great performance. They gelled together. They gelled well. They defended their hearts out. And yeah, great to spectate.
What were your thoughts on young Jalen de Groot at fullback, Gaz?
I thought he played well. Generally, like pretty safe, pretty good under the high ball. Just did all the simple things really well. Um, yeah, I like him. It's a gun.
He's very different to Keeney. Keeney's so explosive, and I think it's like a 1-for-1 in terms of like the Warriors. So I like to compare Keeney to Tuivasa-Sheck.
Mm,
Both dynamic ball runners. You give them the ball in space, good luck, sort of
yeah,
thing. Where De Groot's more of like a Chance Nickel Clockstead, more clinical in terms of his ball playing. Seems like he can direct the boys around the park a little bit better, just going off what I've seen in the trials and from last week. So it's going to sort of look like a different perspective going forward and how they're playing, because obviously the way they play is different. I think De Groot got around 80 meters running, so not that much comparatively to what Keeney does. He does 200 plus again. That's where the two of us a Sheck comparison comes in for me.
mm,
So their play styles can be very different, but it could be a good thing in a way where De Groot will take some of the pressure off AJ, and AJ can still be that hybrid 5'8 fullback. And we saw it on the weekend, or it might have been the week before, I can't remember. But they were 10 meters out. They had really quick ruck speed on the 10-meter line. And essentially, AJ just bulleted straight through like 8 meters out and just crashballed over two guys. That's where I want to see AJ getting the ball in that support sort of play off quick ruck speed. And I think the group will help AJ do that more because he won't have to be facilitating and playmaking so much.
yeah, yeah. He's going to take a bit of that off the playmaking role, and then yeah, be able to inject himself in other ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting stat I found here too, Gazzy. So the Gold Coast claimed their second straight victory, obviously, but they secured their first win over the Roosters since 2016.
That's a great
It's
stat.
pretty crazy.
9 years in the making.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
So
great.
9 years making. So what are your thoughts on the the Roosters, Gaz? Where are they at?
Yeah, interesting start for the Roosters. They are, from the top of my head, probably like 1 from 4. Very tough. Then, yeah, like don't know about the Roosters. Just so far, you can't write them off yet, but it's like probably not making top 8 is my prediction.
Yeah, I
I
don't
mean,
predict it either.
this early, like, in the season, don't think so unless they can really turn it around the next like 3 or 4 weeks, next 3 or 4 rounds. But they're really going to have to start like winning like week to week.
Yeah. It's evident James Tedesco's trying so hard. Like, you look at the eye test, Tedesco's and everything, but he's not a one-man team. He hasn't got those guns around him like he has in previous seasons, and I think it's especially evident now with Sandon Smith being so young in his career, and then you've got the polar opposite in Chad Townsend, who's borderline retiring at the end of the year. He hasn't got that experience in the halves, and they desperately, desperately need Sam Walker back at halfback.
Mm.
And I think it might be too late by the time he gets back. Same with Cheese. Like, Cheese is obviously very valuable to them, but Cheese won't be getting re-signed there next year. Connor Watts has obviously been doing a fantastic role at the 9, but he wasn't there last week as well. So, yeah, I think unfortunately, Gazzy, I don't think they will make the 8 either. Unless Joey Manu comes from Japanese rugby and comes out of nowhere and saves the day, which I don't
The
put it past him.
savior, Joey
The
Manu,
saviour.
please.
Good for the Supercoach. So the next game had the Broncos versus the Dolphins. So ChatGPT predicted the Broncos 24 and the Dolphins 18, and the score was 20-12. So that was fact. The Broncos won the local derby, and as Katoni Staggs points to the camera every single time, this is our house. Yeah, and some other words were used, but I won't use them. But the match report, so the Broncos have averaged last year's shock loss, or the Ventus shock loss to the Dolphins by defending their way to a hard-fought 20-12 in the heavy rain of the Brisbane. Suncorp was pouring, mate. I don't think the TV did any justice, but it was absolutely pissing down. And I think this sort of relays to a bit of Supercoach as well, but the guys who held Reece Walsh, he looked a lot better last week. What are your thoughts on the Broncos and Walshy, Gaz?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it pissed down on Saturday. It was like 80 to 100 mils of rain. It's almost like the cyclone again. Dolphins and Broncos. Yeah, Dolphins are. I think they're struggling a little bit. At least this early on in the season, haven't gone off to a great start. Whereas the Broncos have been a little bit more consistent. They have been looking like I guess the better team. Yeah, the game was good. I think a lot of improvements for the Dolphins, but Reece Walsh, yeah, I think he had a great game.
Yeah. I think he just sort of put the pass in his back pocket and just wasn't trying to push it. I think he was just trying to think run first, pass second. And that's what he should be doing. He's not the halfback. He's not the 5'8". He's the fullback. And the fullback should be the runner. Yeah, I thought he's a lot more controlled, a lot less errors, a lot less brain farts like we've been taking the piss for the past couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And he's only going to get better after that game. I think that was really just a bit of a settler game, and I think he's going to go absolutely ballistic. But we'll talk about that in their next game coming up. I think the Dolphins, Hamiso just looks almost disinterested. If that sounds like an asshole, but he sort of doesn't look like he's getting too engaged. Is that too harsh to say, Gaz?
Well, if you compare his like performance on field to last year, no, like I'll have to agree with you because it's like last year towards the end, I remember like he was so electric. Like he'd get the ball, you'd see him like step a couple of players, or at least like step one, make a line break, get in that hole, and then just go like he's just off. And whereas like whether it be like you can't pinpoint one player specifically and just say like it's Hammer's fault because like why the Dolphins are doing so bad, but like just that attacking flair is definitely lacking this year from the Dolphins, and whether it be because of like other factors, the fatigue, the general fatigue from the boys, or maybe probably the territory, maybe not make Dolphins aren't able to make enough ground or cover enough ground to get into that attacking zone for the backs or for Hammer to do something. But yeah, he's looking a little bit different this season.
Yeah. I think they've had a few injuries with Lemu and Fene Fuyaki, and that's their two sort of more explosive forwards. but they're definitely an aging forward pack. And Saifidi was meant to be their big pickup, and he's had a few games where I thought not looking too good, sort of past his prime, which the Dolphins really need him peaking. I think it is mainly the four pack. Gilbert's obviously trying really hard, but it's going to take him some time to get back to that pre-origin form that he was in a couple of years ago. But again, we're comparing the Dolphins to an absolute dynamite Broncos team, and I think we need to give the Broncos more credit. Especially need to give Shibasaki some credit. He was absolutely dynamic, and Madge Maguire showing some faith, keeping him in. I think a lot of people would have said, hey, Dean Mariner should be the one staying in that team. He's an attacking dynamo, Dean Mariner in his own right. But Shibasaki, tell you what, he might be in contention for a little award later, potentially. Shibasaki, 2 tries. Looked really, really good. Walshy looked pretty good. Renault's kicking game, still unreal. But again, I think it comes down to their 2 front rowers, Gazzy and Payne Haas and Paddy Carrigan. Those 2 boys are just absolutely animals.
Yeah. Power. Workhorses, and they make so many meters.
Yeah, it's just the 1-2 punch, and then you got Big Bopper, Xavier Wilson, and Jensen and Pierre Corey come off the bench, and then the class of Billy Walters. Their reserves are fantastic as well, and they'd probably be starting on a lot of the teams, so they got that luxury. And obviously their 2 prime front rowers play huge minutes as well, so Broncos are going to be hard ones to beat. But enough about the Broncos. We'll move on to the next game. St. George Woollawara Dragons versus the Melbourne Storm. ChatGPT predicted the Storm 30 to the Dragons 10. And Gaz, the Dragons won 14-8. And you called this one, and I was copping shit at school. So this was cap. The Dragons pulled off a surprising win against the Storm, making consecutive victories over Melbourne in the first time since 1999. The Dragons had a notable win, and yeah, it was their lowest score for the Storm, facing the Dragons since 2011. So it's also been a notable little stat I found there. Dragons 14, Storm 8. What are your thoughts?
Should I say it right? I told you so. No, that was that was it was surprising. Like that for me to make that call last week, it was kind of just like a random, I reckon a little gut feeling, St. George, the Dragons, they're due for a win. But yeah, watching that game, it was like the Storm never left like first gear. They were just all one gear the whole way. St. George defended so well from the start.
So good.
Yeah, never seen St. George defend like that. And they just kept going for the whole 80 minutes. And I think that they almost like Melbourne Storm the Melbourne Storm. Like, yeah, they just kind of just grinded it out. Great defense, and then managed to pull it off.
Especially in that the wet weather too. I thought that would suit Melbourne. I think it was quite evident that they really missed Jerome Hughes. Chart more of a 5'8" than a halfback if we had to pick a position. He did a lot more running the ball instead of sort of setting up for the next play. I thought Pappenhausen looked really, really strong. But I think the man of the match had to be Gutho. He's been on an absolute tear for the entire season.
Yeah.
He's definitely on a bit of a revenge tour by looks of it. And the passion that he's showing and those intangibles that you can't teach, that grit, and just even as captain going up to the referee and saying, well, hey, there's 2 people talking to you. Only the captain can talk to you. Like these little things that no one else will pick up, but an experienced captain like Gutho. Those are the sort of things that bring winning culture. And I think the Dragons, as I predicted at the start of the season, they should be a top 8 team. Obviously started slow, but this could be exactly what they needed post-bye to sort of get their season on the way. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Yeah, big turning point for the Dragons. I think from here on, gaining a lot of confidence from that win against the Melbourne Storm, and then fingers crossed, yeah, I'm pretty invested in the Dragons. Hopefully they can do pretty well.
Yeah. Especially I got Tui Pelotu and Gutho and Supercoach, so come on, boys, turn it on for me. Next game, we got the North Queensland Cowboys versus the Canberra Raiders. ChatGPT predicted the Cowboys 22 versus the Raiders 18, and the result was Cowboys 30 to Raiders 20. So fact, the Cowboys secured a win with the actual score slightly higher than originally predicted. Coach Todd Payton quoted to state that we all talked all week about applying pressure, and for the most part, we did exactly that. What are your thoughts on this game, Gazzy?
They finally got one, right? The Cowboys. Yeah. Yeah, great. Great for the Cowboys because they've been working so hard. And it's just little things that they didn't get right. And yeah, it's great for them to be, um, finally on the board. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely due for a win. A little bit surprised. I thought obviously the Raiders started so hot at the start of the season. Hello, Laura.
Hi, Laura.
Yeah, the Raiders obviously started so hot at the start of the season. They've sort of dropped off the past couple of weeks. Obviously had a couple of injuries here and there, but yeah, the Cowboys with Jake Clifford back into the team with a more experienced half comparatively to their young half at the start of the year, looking better. Tommy did and finally got his ass into gear and looked like he wanted to play, especially when Olakawado isn't running at him anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, they've got still so many guns in that team, and what, 4 Origin players, borderline anyway. Yeah, they should be doing better than they are, and yeah, I think this again, similar to the Dragons, this is probably exactly what they needed to kickstart their season.
Mm.
We got the Sharkies versus the Bulldogs. So ChatGPT predicted the Sharks 26 versus the Bulldogs 14, and the score was the Bulldogs 20, the Sharks 6. So that was cap. The Bulldogs continued their strong start to the season, remaining undefeated for the first 4 rounds, with coach Cameron Ciraldo stating, "We stuck to the plan and trusted our edges. It wasn't flashy, it was just disciplined." What are your thoughts on the doggies, Gazzy?
Up the doggy. Yeah, great. Yep. I think Crichton, great captain. Crichton, doing wonders for the dogs. Like when
Huge.
yeah, but really big culture around the dogs. I think together as a team, like they're playing really well. So yeah, yeah, awesome. Good on the
And
dogs.
for the Sharks, they should be, or they have been top 4 for the past couple of seasons, or like past 4 years,
Yeah.
really. So it's kind of disappointing they only managed to put 6 points. They've got Trindall and Nico Hines in the halves. Kennedy's been really, really good. However, the Sharkies did cop a couple of injuries during this game, which is notable to mention. They had Sifa Talakai and Kale Ero, both injured. So it's obviously going to be a bit detrimental to them
Mm.
during their game. But I think we got to give more credit to the dogs. Again, as you mentioned with Critter, his captaincy the past 2 years has only shown with what their culture's done with terms of their winning record. And especially with Birdo and Kiko out, not only is a lot of money in their salary cap where it could be distributed to other players in terms of player movement and etc. But this next man up sort of syndrome. Bailey Hayward, I've been looking at it for Supercoach. I've been talked out of it because longevity is not there, but he's done a really good job at 5'8". Toby Sexton's kicking game, he's literally just doing everything for them. Former Titans player. Fucking idiots. And yeah, I think the doggies are just on the way up and they could be a new juggernaut for the next couple of years, Gaz. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I agree. They're looking good, the dogs. Things are turning. I feel like it'll be interesting by the end of the year to see and reflect back on the earlier rounds, but things are definitely changing in terms of going from those like last, 3, 4 years where Panthers have been so dominant. Yeah, it could be a bit of a turn. We could be starting to see some of those, top 8 teams leave the top 8 and kind of go down towards the more, 10, 11, 12, and then see a lot of the teams like, the Titans, West Tigers, the Knights, more creep into the top 8. So yeah, I think there's things are changing, which is very interesting for the game.
Yeah, it's great. Again, that transparency and anyone can win sort of mentalities. That's what we sort of want as podcasters and fans of the game.
Mm.
Manly versus the Parramatta Eels. ChatGPT predicted Manly Seagulls 28, the Eels 20. And the result was Manly 26 to the Eels 12. So that was fact. Manly secured the win with the actual score closely matching the prediction, with captain of Manly, Daly Cherry Evans, quoting, "We had a few things go against us, but the boys responded well. That's what I'm proud of." What are your thoughts on this game? And obviously, huge, notable injury in Tommy Turbo going off after like 25 minutes with the MCL.
Yeah, I'm gonna preface with I've got a couple of mates, especially his name's Kurt. Great mate. Great. He's a diehard Eels fan, but
Rough.
so I feel for him because it's like this Eagles. Yeah, I think they were just way too good, and Eels just aren't having a great season. They can't seem to find any form. They can't seem to have any gel or gelling within their team. Yeah, I like this one. You could kind of see coming, especially Sea Eagles being such a dominant team so far into this season. Yeah.
Yeah, Parramatta is just woeful to say the least. You never like to think if it's a one sort of one player is going to save their team, but Mitchell Moses is so monumental to their success, and it's been proven over the past couple of years. When he's not there, the Eels do crap. When he is there, they seem to win at least 50% of their games.
Yeah.
He's obviously still a few weeks away, and they're definitely not going to rush him with that surgery he had for his foot and the ailment he's had with that kicking foot as well. But I think we obviously got to give a lot of credit to Manly, especially when Tommy went down. They just literally did the next man up philosophy. Lehigh Hopperwhite is a fantastic replacement for Tommy. Obviously losing Paseka as well last week, huge loss. But again, next man up mentality. The next player stands up, and Manly's just kicking goals. I think they're definitely going to be at least probably top six. It'll be interesting during the Origin period when Daly Cherry Evans isn't playing consistently. But yeah, they're just dynamic, mate. Olakuatu's an absolute beast. Their backs are just scoring plenty of tries. Garrick's having a fantastic season. Um, yeah, Jake Trbojevic is obviously leading at the front. That morale mentor, as we like to talk about. But yeah, Parramatta's just Iongi at fullback, so young, still learning. Haven't got a halfback, well, because Moses isn't there. They're chopping and changing their hooker. They've literally cutting and pasting a different forward pack every single week. It's almost like the Knights last year where you're not going to get any cohesion because you're cutting and chopping everyone every single week.
Mm.
But I guess Riles is just trying to throw shit against the wall and seeing if it sticks. And I don't blame him. To be honest, the Eels are pretty woeful at the moment. And yeah, Zachy Lomax is probably regretting that decision to leave the Dragons. So last game of the round, it was West Tigers versus the New Zealand Warriors. ChatGPT predicted the Warriors 26 and the Tigers 12. And the result was the Warriors 26 to the Tigers 24. So this was fact. The Warriors won a closely contested match with the Tigers showing significant improvement. His coach Andrew Webster quoted, "That wasn't our prettiest performance, but we found a way. Sometimes that's enough." Hey, that's correct. A W is a W. What are your thoughts on this game, Gazzy?
Yeah, so I briefly caught this one and very close because it was like neck and neck, hey, up and down, and it ended up being like, 20, was it 24 all with like 2 minutes to go or like a minute to go, and it was like conversion to seal it for the Warriors, but from memory it was like a contentious penalty too. It might have been like a high tackle or something like that. But yeah, yeah, good on the Warriors. I think like that one could have literally gone either way. So good on the Warriors, but then the Tigers very hard done by as well. So
Yeah. Warriors looking pretty good. Lukey Metcalf and Harris Tavita are sort of forming a nice little combination, especially with Tamari Martin in the, what do you call it, the second grade team. Yeah, he's biting at their heels trying to get back in. So he's obviously providing a bit of incentive for those boys to keep going well. Nickel Clockstead's found some form, but their young fella, I don't want to pronounce his name wrong, but Lackey, he made that big breakaway try, and we're going to probably give him a bit of a shout out later in the Tinnie Awards. But if you guys haven't seen it, watch the try. He literally gets the ball from the center and runs about 70 meters, bopping off two blokes out the back, and does a celebration 8 meters out, telling the crowd to shush like Metcalf a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, he's a gun. He's only 19 years old, so plenty of promise, and he'll be one to watch moving forward. Yeah, ChatGPT's predictions was 4 correct and 4 wrong, so it's a 50% hit rate. Not too bad, and again, a couple of 50-50 calls could go on there. Round 4 complete. Now looking at round 5, Gazzy. So ChatGPT predicts the Sharks to beat the Raiders 26-16. What are your thoughts, cap or fact?
I want to say I tipped the
Raiders home.
Raiders. Yeah, I'm gonna say cap. Nah, I reckon Raiders will get this one. They've been doing well early on in the season, and then yeah, interesting to see how Fogarty goes and how the Raiders boys go. But yeah, I'm hoping Raiders for this one.
Yep. I'm going to say fact. I think the Sharkies are just too clinical. I think their last week performance was a blip in what they have been doing on a consistent basis. The Raiders at home is always going to be a tough game, especially in Canberra. But yeah, I think the Sharkies will just pip them. And I think there's a lot of players in that Sharks team looking to prove a point. And obviously, with those injuries mid game last week for the Sharkies being back to full strength, I think that's certainly going to help their performance. Next game, we got the Penrith Panthers at home versus the North Queensland Cowboys. ChatGPT predicts the Panthers 30 to the Cowboys 14. Gazzy, is this cap or fact?
Well, with Cleary back, that's going to be probably, it's going to be massive for the Panthers. So I'm going to say this is fact. Panthers should get this one against the Cowboys.
Yep. Again, we talked about the Panthers' depth, but yeah, huge inclusion from Nathan Cleary being back in. And I think the Panthers, obviously being at, again, quotation marks, home, because their stadium's getting refurbished. I think that's going to definitely help them. And the Panthers are looking to definitely prove a point. A lot of people are writing them off saying you're not a top 4 team anymore. I think they're going to try to put a really big score on the Cowboys. So yeah, I think fact. Next game, we got the Roosters at home versus the Rabbitohs. Again, it's in Sydney, much of a muchness to be honest. But the prediction is 22 to the Roosters versus 18 for the Rabbitohs. Is that cap or fact?
That's cap for me, right? I think it's going to be like a close score, like within the 4 to 12. But I think Rabbitohs are going to get up against the Roosters. With Latrell Mitchell coming back as well, like he is superstar, and you mentioned before playing at the centres, so yeah, very interesting one to watch.
Yeah, I'm going to say cap too. Roosters are obviously very mediocre to say it at best. And I think the confidence with Latrell Mitchell coming back into the team is going to help everyone. And Wayne Bennett supporting Jai Gray saying, hey, you're our fullback currently, why he's leading the Dally M medals. I think that's only going to help him. And with Tromit back in the team, it's going to help everyone. It's going to help Humphreys. It's going to help Cody Walker. That left-hand attack with Walker and Tromit, that's always going to be dynamic. But we mentioned before with Tromit being at centre, very good defensively, and you've got Jack Wyden on the other side, very good defensively. So arguably, you've got the two best defensive centres in the game for the foreseeable future. And obviously got Jai Gray at the back. Yeah, I think it's going to be a pretty convincing victory for the Rabbitohs. So, yeah, I'm going to say cap as well. Next game, we got the Dragons versus the Eels, and it's the Eels home game. ChatGPT predicts the Eels 24 to the Dragons 20. Is that cap or fact, Gazzy?
Well, that is straight cap. I don't know if that's a term, but I'm going to start saying that now.
I agree.
Well, the Eels, like, I don't know, are they due for a win? The Eels, I feel for them. I hope they do well. I hope it's a close game. Dragons, you can't get past the Dragons' performance last week against the Storm. If they have a similar game, if they're able to keep that momentum going, I think, yeah, should be an easy one for the Dragons.
Yeah, Dragons look way too good, and I think they're going to come off a huge high in regards to their confidence last week beating the Melbourne Storm. Yeah, I think the Dragons will absolutely put a toweling on them. They're going to be too clinical, and hopefully Gutho and Tuipulotu score 500 points each on SuperCoach. And Gazzy, local derby here. Titans at home versus the Dolphins. ChatGPT predicts the Titans 26 versus the Dolphins 20. Is that cap or fact?
You don't even have to ask me the question, right? Straight
Up
facts.
the Titans. Let's
Yeah,
go.
let's go. Yeah, Titans all the way, all the way. I'll be tipping them every week. Yeah, Titans. Very excited for this game because all Queensland derby. It's going to be at home. Seabus, will be at the game, cheering them on, loud and proud. But yeah, Titans have been looking very good, very very good in terms of like their forward pack. Tino doing amazing, killing it. Coming back from that ACL injury, and I think Fafita's been playing a little bit better. At least he's been getting a bit more
Yep.
game time. And
Yep.
Waker, he's been killing it.
Mate, unreal.
Mm.
Wake is definitely an unsung hero.
I want to buy a jersey now, right? Knowing that, I think you have to tell.
So for the viewers out here, what I'm wearing, So as a Titans member, I actually won a fan experience, and the fan experience was a jersey swap. So I got to go after the game onto the field. So I went through the Titans locker room, got onto the field, and all the players from the Titans got onto the field, and it was just a random draw. I was lucky enough to be number 8 in line, so I got big number 8. So I actually got Mo Fodawaker's jersey on me right now. It's actually not that baggy on me, and this is like a 2XL, so you can imagine how tight it would be on Fodawaker. I'm only 78 kilos, so
That's great.
yeah, I guess that's why they don't get jersey swung these days.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think the Titans are going to be very clinical. I think they're going to be beaming off the past couple of weeks. Their combinations are only going to be better and better. Tino's getting fitter. Regardless if he has 3 subs a game, doesn't matter. Use 20 subs. I don't give a shit. And we want Tino on there as long as we can. The Dolphins, yeah, they just look a bit lackluster at the moment. I think they've got a bit of an identity crisis. Should they put Hammer at center? Should they change their fate? Is Katoa not ready yet? Is their forwards too old? They've got a lot of questions, and the Titans have answered their preseason questions. So I think the Titans, again, will be winning this game. So that is definitely fact. Next game, we got the Tigers versus the Broncos. ChatGPT predicts the Broncos beating the Tigers 28-16. Gary, is that cap or fact?
That one is facts. Yep. Broncos looking very good. Tigers not as much. Broncos a lot of firepower, especially with Reece Walsh. Climbing back again, doing really well. Very bold in attack. So yeah, I reckon Broncos up for that one.
Yeah, I think Broncos at Suncorp as well. That's a huge advantage. It's an absolute fortress up there. The Tigers also haven't got Jerome Luai this week. He's got a 1-match suspension, so that's a huge loss for the Tigers, and they're going to miss his class around the halves and controlling the ruck. But yeah, it'll be interesting. The battle of the big boys, Payne Haas versus Terrell May. You can arguably say they've been the 2 best front rowers in the NRL this year. Both crazy work rate. Very, very interesting matchup between those two. But I think the class of the Broncos halves is just going to be too good without Jerome Luai there. So I definitely facts Broncos beating the Tigers. And this is arguably probably the game of the round, guys. This is the Storm versus the Sea Eagles, and this is Manly at home. ChatGPT predicts the Storm beating Manly 22-14. Is that cap or fact?
Ooh, wow, so many thoughts in this one. I'm going to agree with ChatGPT and say that's facts. However, the Seagulls aren't going to, they're going to be putting up a fight for sure. I think it's very hard or very unlikely that the Storm lose 2 in a row. They typically bounce back quite quickly, or so because the Storm, they've got a lot to, I guess, to prove. So yeah, Storm up.
Yeah. So again, the battle of Brookie. So the people who don't know what I'm talking about, go on YouTube or TikTok, type in the Battle of Brookie NRL, and you'll see a very long-waited feud that these two teams have had over the years. I do agree with you, Gazzy and ChatGPT. I think the Storm are going to be too clinical. I think it will provide the Storm a bit more confidence now that Turbo is not playing. If Turbo was playing, I probably would say it could be a bit of a smoky pick without Jerome Hughes there. But since Turbo is not playing, I'm definitely going to back the Storm to beat Manly at Brookie there. And I think some of those guys who underperformed for the Storm last week are definitely not going to have 2 bad games in a row. So, yeah, Bellamy's going to definitely get the boys up for this game. Next game, we got the Knights versus the Doggies, and the Doggies are at home. So it's the Bulldogs 24, Knights 18. Is that cap or fact, Gaz?
I reckon that's fact. Straight facts. Bulldogs, they are killing it. Start of the season. They're looking to keep that momentum building. Yeah, I reckon, yeah, Bulldogs.
Bulldogs 5 in a row, mate. 5 in a row. Dogs of War. Yeah, I agree, mate. I think the Doggies going to be too good. I just hope Kalen Ponga brains it for me for SuperCoach. But besides that, yeah, I think the Dogs are just going to be too good. Their defense has just been unreal, and I think the change for Jacob Preston switching to the left-hand side is only going to help their attack. But yeah, let's just hope it's a competitive game for both teams. But yeah, definitely fact for the Doggies. So that's our predictions for the week, Gazzy. So we got the next segment, we got SuperCoach breakdown. So the top performers from round 4. Wasn't too many high scores actually this week, but as we just mentioned before, Jacob Preston for the Bulldogs. He scored 122 points. Absolutely killed it on the left-hand side. Shibasaki from the Broncos. So he scored 116 points. He's got a massive break even. So if you don't own Shibasaki in Supercoach, go get him. Jack Cole did fantastic as well for the Panthers, taking over that major playmaking role. He scored 95 points. And Jakey Clifford from the Cowboys scored 99 points. So both very, very good pickups. But Gary, the betting is just another. It just stresses me out, mate. And my betting has been so bad. My Supercoach has gone pretty good. I'm very happy with Supercoach. My betting, mate, it's just stressing me out so bad. I can't pick it,
You're
eh?
thinking about that half a marrow.
Bruh. So the betting. So your bold predictions last week, Gaz.
Yeah.
You predicted Jerome Luai to score 70 plus points on Supercoach. That is a big wrong. He barely got like 20.
Yeah.
The prop and second rower to score from the Broncos against the Finns. You're wrong. And then you also predicted the Raiders to win by 16 points, which is also incorrect because they did not win the game. But I can't even talk shit because I'm just as bad, Gaz. I said both Manly wingers to score a double. That was very ambitious. That was wrong. I made this prediction pre-Pappenhausen saying he wasn't converting goals, but Pappenhausen to score 18 points by himself, which was wrong. And then I also said Nico Hines to score 100 points as Supercoach, which was also wrong. So, Gary, our bold predictions, I think we need to pull our finger out and do a little bit better on that one because we're struggling to answer that. So now we're looking at our tipping, Gary. How do you think your tipping's going at the moment? You happy? Are you sad?
A bit hit and miss. I reckon I could do better. Really stressed about running this half marathon. Eating nuggets.
More than the Nuggets, eh? But Gazzy, our round 4 tips. So it was the Rabbitohs versus Panthers. We both tipped the Panthers, so we didn't get a point there. The Roosters versus the Titans. We both tipped the Titans, so we both got a point there. The Dolphins versus the Broncos. We both tipped the Broncos, so we both got a point there. The absolute smoke show that you said before, Gazzy. You said the Dragons to beat the Storm. You got a point up on me. And then the next game was the Cowboys versus the Raiders. We both tipped the Raiders. Next game was the Sharks versus the Bulldogs. We both tipped the Sharkies. So the next game was Seagulls versus the Eels. Both tipped the Seagulls, so we both got a point there. And then a very close matchup for the West Tigers versus the Warriors, but we both tipped the Tigers and we both didn't get a point there. So, Gary, out of the 8 matches, you scored 4 points and I scored 3, which means for the season going so far, Gary, you got 18 points and I'm on 15. So, yeah, I'm a bit nervous, but there's plenty of runway to go, Gazzy, so don't get too confident, brother.
Still 21 weeks, 22 weeks.
Yeah. True. So we've got round 5, our betting for round 5, Gazzy. So Raiders versus Sharks. I've tipped the Sharkies and you've tipped the Raiders. Panthers versus the Cowboys. We both tipped the Panthers. Roosters versus the Rabbitohs. We both tipped the Rabbitohs. Dragons versus the Eels. We both tipped the Dragons. The mighty premiership bound to be Titans versus the Dolphins. We both tipped the Titans. The Tigers versus the Broncos. Both tipped the Broncos. Storm versus Eagles. Both tipped the Storm. And then the Knights versus the Doggies. I tipped the Dogs. You tipped the Knights. Okay, so a couple of differentiation there. Hopefully I can pip some points back onto you, Gazzy. So, bold predictions for round 5. Gaz, you said Latrell Mitchell to score 80 plus points on Supercoach. But since his break even is going to be 86 plus, I've changed that to 90 points for you. You're welcome.
Let's go, Latrell.
Cleary to go over 100 points in Supercoach. That's a pretty good one. And Titans to beat the Dolphins by 20 plus points. I like the confidence there. And then my bold predictions. I got the Broncos to win by 20 plus points. I got both Panthers wingers to score and the Panthers to win. And I got Trell Mitt to score on his return and the Rabbitohs to win. So there are bold predictions and tips for round 5, guys. If you like our tips or you think they're shit or you think our bold predictions need some work, please, guys, post in the comments because I'm happy to listen. I need some serious help. So, Gazzy, we're on to the Tinnie Awards for round 4. So, the Hit Stick Award. There was 2 that really stood out to me, and it was both from the Broncos game. It was Paddy Carrigan. Did you see that hit, Gaz?
Remind me.
Well, he just came. It was pretty much the Broncos kicked sort of early into the set, and they really wanted to jam the other team. And Paddy Carrigan just came flying out of the line and absolutely just smacked that player. I can't remember the player off the top of my head, uh, but certainly deserved the hit stick award. Want to give an honourable mention to his teammate Brendan Piakura on Herbie Famworth.
Yeah.
Sort of Herbie got a hospital ball, and then Piakura just sort of jammed him from behind,
Yep.
/ the side into his ribs,
Yep.
and Herbie just knocked the ball
I
on.
saw that one.
Um,
I remember the Piakura one, and Herbie was just yeah, yeah, on the ground for a little bit.
he took it on the chin though.
Yeah, he did. Got straight back up. But yeah, yeah, both great shots. I think I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
Google
Do yourself a favour,
YouTube
guys.
that.
Definitely look up the Paddy Carrigan one. Definitely worthwhile. Literally had to rewind on TV. It was that hard. The next award, we got the Supercoach Player of the Round, Jacob Preston, 122 points, absolute standout for the doggies. Changing to that left-hand side, certainly more beneficial for his game. If he stays there, guys, he might be looking at a bit of a buy moving forward. The next award, we got the Not So Supercoach Award. Could have gone several ways here, guys, but I think the obvious option is Tommy Turbo. Obviously getting injured, huge loss for owners. I was lucky I sold early, which was fantastic for my Supercoach team. But yeah, he scored 24 points. He's injured in MCL, so he definitely has to be traded. Lucky for me, 41,000 other people own him. So that's fantastic. I shot up the rankings. But some honourable mentions for the Not So Supercoach Award. We've got Jerome Luai. He's been absolutely tragic on Supercoach, mate. He's been doing absolutely nothing. He's lost like almost $200,000 now. He's worth 428K. He's suspended for this week, and his break even's 93, so that's really bad. And Trindall, Tricky Trindall from the Sharks, he's 556K. His break even 63, and he only scored 15 points for this round. Yeah, pretty poor for a guy who's should be getting at least 70 points in my eyes for a dominant Sharks team. So we talked about this earlier. The Hidden Gem Award. Lika Halamasia, I think I got that right, from the Warriors. Again, if you haven't seen it, look it up on YouTube, TikTok, wherever you want to look at it. But it was a 70-meter try effort. A lot of guys I'm listening to through other media platforms compare him to Brian To'o, but is a forward. Absolute big bopper, dynamic, great footwork. Again, watch the try, guys. He beat several defenders, decent defenders too. I think it was Jack Bird and Buller off recollection. And the funny thing was, when he was 10 metres before the try line, he was going up to the camera, telling everyone to shush in the crowd. That was a bit of banter for the young fella. The next award, we got the bloke who needs a Tinnie Award. I was looking at players. I'm like, it's pretty hard, pretty rough in the wet. But I think it has to go to Craig Fitzgibbon from the Sharks, the coach there. I found the stat, Gazzy. So against top 8 teams over the past 3 seasons, so that's 2023, 2024, and currently 2025, they have won 10 games against top 8 teams and lost 10. So it's a 50% hit rate against top 8 teams. As a coach for a team that absolutely flogs the bottom teams but can't generally beat the top teams, very concerning. And again, last week was another chip on his collar for there as well. We've got the Golden Tinnie Award. So this is our illustrious award. This is our main event award. It was a hard one to pick this week. You got a lot of guys doing their job. You got Tino, obviously. You got Payne Haas, Paddy Carrigan. We could look at players like Toby Sexton carrying the Bulldogs in their kicking game. You could look at some of the guys who, like Jerome Luai, not necessarily providing in terms of points via Supercoach, but just being on the field, he was very, very good. Directing traffic around, especially with a bung shoulder. But I think this week, going off those no real standouts, I think the Supercoach player of the week is Jacob Preston, who got the 122 Supercoach points. He was the top round. Again, he's leading the Bulldogs. They've won 4 in a row now. He's swapped sides. His attacking stats are going up as well. Yeah, so he's a huge impact for them. So that's really, really good. This is the first 4-0 start since 1993 for the Dogs. So I think Jacob Preston deserves the Golden Tinnie Award for round 4. Yep. So, looking a bit of Supercoach data, Gazzy, how did you go? What are your trades this week? What's your ranking from last week?
Um, oof, going into round 4, not as good as 3 and 2. I think from memory it was like 1100 and something, and I think season rank was around 50,000. Trades. I actually have Jerome Luai. I was going to sell him last week, but thought I'd give him another shot.
Get him out.
Yeah, and now, well, I learned something today. He's not playing. He's suspended, so gotta get rid of him. Get rid of him. But yeah, I might trade him in. There's not many good 5'8".
Mate, tell
Yeah,
me about it.
they're hard to come by. So yeah, I think after this podcast, I might have a look at maybe who. But any recommendations, right?
Well, I had Brimo at 5'8" with Dewey. Dewey absolutely effed me over last week, getting injured in the warm-up, which affected my overall score and affected my potential trade because I could have gone Dewey to Munster this week, which is really annoying because Dewey had a pretty low break even of 20. But I made 3 trades this week, and all the boys take the piss with me because I just burn all my trades in the first, 25 or 23 rounds, and I have no trades left. But hey, go hard or go home. But I got talked out of boosting this week, but essentially went AJ Brimson. I traded him for Jaden Campbell. It's just a 1-for-1 for the Titans. Again, Jaden Campbell, as we spoke about earlier, he's just doing everything for the Titans.
Yeah.
And he's their goal kicker. Yes, he's premium price, but he's a set and forget trade. I don't have to worry about him, or assuming he doesn't get injured. 5'8", set and forget. And then I've downgraded Greg Marju reluctantly to get Thomas Jenkins in from the Panthers. That saved me about 340k, which is huge because next week I plan on making a really spicy trade. I'm probably going to go Tom Starling out and on Smith back up to hooker, and I'm getting Cleary in. So that's going to be a big trade next week, and I'm going to have Nico Hines and Cleary and Jaden Campbell. So that's
great.
pretty gun.
Yeah. Yeah.
My ranking this week, low key, I'm getting a bit confident now. I've gone up to 2,666 Australia wide, so that ain't bad.
Right.
And my score was 1,156. Again, my girlfriend Laura always takes the piss that I'm trying to tank her team. But hey, if you listen to Tackles and Tinnies, boys and girls, you'll get some insightful trade insight and players to get. She's giving me a dirty eye right now. But yeah, definitely guys to look at. Guys to buy in this week. I think Jaden Campbell, he's got a break in of 30 and 9. He's the dominant half for the Titans. He kicks goals. He's only getting better at halfback. And I think he's probably going to average 80 plus for the season. He's probably going to be the cheapest he's going to be for a while. So probably, again, in a shitty position, I reckon just get him now while he's the cheapest he can be and just set and forget. Again, I mentioned this trade before as well. Thomas Jenkins, he's got a break even of negative 91, which is huge. He's the biggest cash cow of the week. He literally steps on the field and makes you like $80,000. If you haven't got him in your team, definitely get Thomas Jenkins in from the Panthers. And also, Jacob Preston, we spoke about his heroics on the left edge for the Bulldogs. He's got a break even of 25. Yeah, if you haven't got it in, he's a luxury purchase, that's for sure. But if you're looking to downgrade other players like a Hopgood or something along those lines, he could definitely be an option. Again, you want players on winning teams. I've definitely learned that over the seasons. So that was a swap 'em. Now we're looking to... Sorry, that was a stack 'em. Now we're looking to swap 'em. So this is the trades. I'm at 507k. I've mentioned this before, but AJ Brimson, if you're a Brimo holder, he got like 61 points last week and he scored 2 tries, which means he has no base stats. And I love AJ. We mentioned this before. If you check on my TikTok, I said he's one of my favorite players. And again, being a loyal Tide supporter, that's saying something. So that's unbiased there. So yeah, Brimo, I think he's a sell, unfortunately. And at 725k and 680k respectively, if you got Kale Ero and Brian To'o, cash them out now. They've both got hamstring injuries, and there's definitely plenty of other guys in there, like a Thomas Jenkins for a cash grab, or you can get a Tuipulotu from the Dragons, or like a Jason Saab or something like that. Definitely valuable trade them or swap them out. Now, this is the holds. Okay, these are players that you should not be trading out. If you still have Cleary, from last week. Good job. You held out. But yeah, he's got 727k. He's got a break even 142, hence why I'm buying him next week because he's probably going to drop price. But again, he's the best half in the game. If he's healthy, you got to have him. And obviously, Dylan Edwards will be returning in the next 2 weeks. So again, that's only going to help his game. If you've got Kalen Ponga, definitely hold him. He's got a break even of 72 at 797k. He's a top 3 option at fullback, but he plays like a halfback and he kicks goals. So again, in my opinion, he's a no-brainer. And then this is the biggest hold, Reece Walsh. We bagged him for the past couple of weeks, but he's bottomed out in price at 606,000. If I didn't trade for Gutho last week, I probably would have traded for Reece Walsh this week. But something to look at. Again, the Broncos have had a couple wet games in a row, which definitely affects Reece Walsh's running game. He's only gaining more confidence again. So again, on dry track against sort of weaker teams coming up, I think Walsh is going to explode. So definitely hold Reece Walsh. Now, Gaz, we talked about the Dally M's last week, and I misquoted myself, and I just wanted to clear that for not only myself and you, Gaz, but for the audience. But I found this online from Fox Sports. So, previously, votes would be awarded by a single judge per game on a 3-2 basis, with 3 votes for the player deemed best and fairest. The identities of the judges were also publicly available. So, under the new system, these 2 new judges are unnamed. They're selected from a panel of former players, watch each match, and separately award votes on a 3-2-1 basis, meaning a player can receive 6 votes per match. That's where I got confused. So there's 2 different judges named former players, and they can vote 3-2-1 on a player, so they can get up to 6 votes per game. So as in the past, votes across the early parts of the season were published on Mondays following each round. And after round 12, voting went behind closed doors until the end of the regular season. So the Dally M medalist as well positioned award will be crowned on Wednesday night ceremony at the end of the season. Normally it's during the grand final week. So that's to clarify the 3-2-1 setup. 2 judges per game do the award. So again, they gets up to 6 points. And currently Dry Gray is in the lead. And I tell you what, with Troll Minute Center, he could maintain that hold moving forward. And Gazzy, before we wrap up, we got one fan question. So my best mate Adam has just messaged me on Insta and he's told me this fan question. I thought it was a good one. So Gaz, I want you to answer this one first.
All right.
What does Latrell Mitchell average at centre if he stays there for the season? If he does stay there, what is a good price to buy him, assuming he gets the dual position? Currently, he's about 865k.
Oh, damn, that's a bit exy. Hello, Adam. Hey, Ed. It's me. Thanks for tuning in. Great question. Latrell Mitchell. What does he average? And if he stays there for this season, you'd like he breaks 100 plus his first round back. And if he can, I think that's great. He's priced at 800 and what did you say, right? Like
65,
865-ish. That's quite high. Like unless he
especially at centre.
yeah, exactly, especially at center, so like less run meters, potentially more tries, but Latrell's great at fullback. Like he can score from anywhere really. So what's a good price to buy him? I think he most likely will drop in price over the next couple of rounds, especially at center. I don't know if he can perform at his ceiling at center, but if he moves back to fullback, like I would like to see him around maybe like 700, 750. That would be a bargain, a steal. And if he's averaging like 70, 80 at least, then yeah, I think that's a good price.
Yeah. And as past seasons are gone, like Hamiso last year had that dual position playing at fullback. It's always so valuable to have a fullback in the centre wing position. Shame Jalen de Groot can't get me a couple more points in my draft team, but carry on. My thoughts, Adam. So what does Latrell Mitchell average at centre if he stays there for the season? Well, SuperCoach has got him averaging at around 87 at his current price point. At centre, I do not predict him to score 87 at centre. I probably predict him to get, guys, I reckon you're pretty spot on, like 70, 75 points, which means, again, he will drop about $100 to $120,000 in cash. And if you can pick them up at around that 750 mark at center with that dual position, unreal. That's sort of on par with Zach Lomax, Val Holmes, Toby Farmworth, Jacob Carraz. So they're like your top tier center wings. And obviously Troll Mitt, goal kicks as well. And then more than likely, maybe if Jai keeps killing it, I can't say that for sure. Yeah, he's probably going to be going back to fullback at some point. Maybe Origin, don't know. But yeah, at a good price, I'd definitely say around 750 to probably 780. So dropping around about 100K realistically would be a great buy at center, in my opinion. So great question, Adam. Thank you for that, mate. I hope you're enjoying your gym session. Gazzy, to wrap up the show, and I think on behalf of both of us, Gaz, or more so me, I just want to apologise for the audio quality last week, guys. Can we just blame Alfred? We had internet problems all last week at my house. They're just doing repairs around the corner, so my internet was just being all funky. We got a funny little blooper which cheers me up when I'm at work. I'm having a shitty day. So
That was funny.
good work, Gazzy, holding the fort.
Yeah, that was
yeah, guys. Hopefully the audio quality for this podcast is made up for it. We appreciate your loyalty and support regarding that. Any last words, Gaz?
No, I just want to thank everyone for tuning in because it's been great. You look forward to recording every Tuesday night. Hey, it's like a lot of this fan engagement, a lot of these great questions. And yeah, I just want to be able to answer, even if it's any physio related questions. It could be about your mum, your dad, your uncle that has a niggly like hamstring, like anything like that. I think it just spreads the word and yeah, it's great.
Yeah, spot on, Gazzy. Well, I have to give you a wrap as well. You got the tip of the week last week with the Dragons beating the Storm. I'm hoping I can make some movement back for our tipping comp. But guys, again, I reiterated this earlier on. Please, please, please like, subscribe, and give us a rating. It really helps us get recognized among the platform and the algorithm. Share it on your socials when we're posting. You guys are doing a fantastic job viewing on TikTok and commenting. So I really appreciate that, guys. Yeah, the more you can engage with us, the more we will get recognized, and then we'll be able to do some future giveaways or prizes or interactions because it will be more recognizable. Again, it's a snowball effect. And again, as we're growing as a platform, we can give more to you as the viewer and consuming our media content. So again, we're on Instagram, we're on Spotify, we're on YouTube, we're on TikTok, you name it, we're on it. Comment where you feel like you need to. And again, Gary was talking about giving us questions regarding physio, but guys, it could be anything. It could be footy, physio, general life, could be gym, just random, could be basketball. I don't care. It could be about your school life. I don't give a shit. Tell me what you're thinking. We're happy to answer it. Yeah, we're a bunch of 30-year-olds just here for a yarn, aren't we, Gaz?
Yeah, 100%. Ask Ryan about how to do a 3-pointer. Correct form.
I can tell you how to airball. That's about it. Alrighty, guys. Hope you enjoy your week and enjoy the footy.
See you guys.
Thanks, guys.